Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Dentistry Unmasked. I'm Pam Maragliano-Muniz. With me, as always,
Hey, Pam. David Rice. Good to see you.
great to see you. What is happening?
You know, new year, new vision goals means new technology in my world. How about you?
Yeah, no, I think that same story. I feel like this year was a little weird. I feel like as soon as the year started, there was no like ramp up to the new year. And I feel like, yeah, I have goals, but I feel like I just got bombarded with work. So I feel like I might have lost sight of some of my goals, but new technology is always coming. And I think for us to be differentiated in our practices, and I think our patients are expecting it. And I think
Hmm.
that people are having a hard time finding teams. And when we invest in technology, teams want to work with us. So we've got an amazing guest with us this week. We've got Dr. Marty Jablow. Marty, welcome.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Dave. Good to see you both. Been a while since I've been on this podcast.
It's been a
I
minute.
know it has
Yeah,
been. And last time it was crazy. We were on the exhibit floor and it was just like a
yeah.
zoo. So now we just have your undivided attention
You
to
got me.
hear about what's going on in the industry. Like, what are some new technologies you're excited about? What's happening?
So, technology is exploding right now. I mean, if we went back in time a little bit, there was something that was called Moore's Law, which was how many transistors were on a computer chip and how quickly things were progressing. Well, now we're seeing that, but in a different way. We're kind of seeing Moore's Law in AI. I mean, when you think about it, 2 years ago, maybe we saw the beginnings of AI and how it impacted, diagnosis. What was looking at radiographs? I mean, I've been working in the AI space with some companies for probably 5 or 6 years now, but it just started coming out. But now it's exploded. I mean, when you think about it, we've got AI in diagnosis, we've got AI answering the phones, we've got AI doing insurance information, we've got AI doing all of these different pieces and interacting both with patients and with the community. It's just exploding. And with that, we also have other things that are coming out soon. Things about, diagnostics in terms of not just AI looking at a radiograph, but actually we're looking at oral diagnostics, salivary stuff, like the old days with oral DNA, but this now is on steroids. And we're looking at all of these different pieces. And the really cool thing is, we may be in the golden age of technology and dentistry because people now acquire it and they're looking for it. And it's just amazing to see what's coming through the pipelines. Now, what actually becomes commercially viable and not, that's going to be a whole different discussion. But it's really cool to see all these startups and other things going on trying to get into these spaces.
So, one of the things I really admire about you, Marty, and you kind of like breezed through it, is you're on the cutting edge of all technologies in dentistry. We're talking about, we're focused on AI right now, but you're on all technologies. You're 5, 6 years deep before I think many of us in dentistry start getting our first real glimpse of it. So if you're like average David Rice dentist, how do we learn more
Well,
quickly and understand like what makes sense?
Well, that what makes sense. So let's start there. First of all, I don't even call it the cutting edge. I'm on the bleeding edge. All right. That's the part where you don't want to be there unless you know what you're doing. All right. Because you're going to get yourself in trouble. But I always call the technology thing a bell curve, just like everything else. And you don't want to be at the laggard. You want to be somewhere in the middle towards the right side as you're looking at it, so that you're not the first one. Because when you're the first people to acquire technologies, you can run into some problems. And then you also can look at it as you're actually beta testing. I mean, there's been plenty of technologies I'm sure that I know I've used, but I'm sure both of you have, that just weren't ready. That doesn't mean they weren't going to be ready 10 years later, but they weren't ready when we actually tried to put them into play. And that's something that you have to be fully cognizant about, especially when, oh yes, we have FDA on it and this material is great, but in reality it's not. It's safe. I'm not going to say it's not, it's not unsafe. It's safe, but it doesn't live up to its expectations. And so I want to make everybody perfectly clear. That's something you want to stay away from. So you want to let the products, that you start to hear about mature. All right. If you went back and looked at what I would call a CEREC 1 at this point and look at what it is, and Dave, I know you're a CEREC user, it's amazing what the difference would look like. The screen was a little screen with just squiggly lines across it. And now you got, what you got today. So, with that, I always say, take a deep breath. You may hear about the things, but think about how it's going to interact in your practice. That's the most important thing. How does it become part of your practice? And what's the benefit going to be? And it's going to be different for every single one of us.
Yeah, I think there's a fine distinction between something being cool and something that's going to be useful and enhance your efficiency and your profitability in your practice. And you have to figure out what that looks like. I feel like, so do you ever go to the Javits Center for the car show? And you know how there's the concept cars there, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I wonder when that's going to come out. And then you never see it again.
Well, because it's never supposed to come out there. You see, that's the difference. The difference is almost every dental product that the company goes to show you like that car that's going to be amazing, is meant to be commercialized. Whereas when you go to that car show, that car was never meant to be built, but it is really cool. And yes, I've been there, and it's just the coolest thing in the world. But it's a one-off. See, that's the difference. There was one, I mean, so I was in talking about like one-offs. I was in the Patek Philippe Museum in Geneva, Switzerland, and they're showing this watch was the most intricate watch they'd ever made, and they only made seven of them, and it took over 100,000 hours to build. Okay, so there's seven of them. Obviously, there was one in that case, so there's at least six. I'm guessing there's one in the vault, so that makes me there's only five in the world out there. So it's a unicorn. But in dental products, nobody comes to us to make a unicorn because it's not commercially viable. No one's going to pay $1 million for, some piece of dental equipment. They're like they would that watch as a status symbol. So we have to understand that, unfortunately, everybody who comes into the space is trying to commercialize it and figure out a way to make it work so that they can earn money or make money with it or sell it or whatever that might be. So it's not quite the same, Pam, but yeah, I like those cars too. They're pretty cool.
Very cool. So you mentioned AI, and I feel like AI is now used sort of as like an umbrella term, right? And so there's a distinct difference between AI and machine learning, right? And so
Right.
would you make that distinction for our audience and also talk about where in dentistry are we seeing kind of more advanced machine learning taking place versus
Right.
true AI?
So most everything we're seeing is machine learning. Okay, at this point, there's not, I mean, we're not at that level in most things at this point. I mean, we go back and people don't even realize it. As I would say, most of our scanners now, they take out the gloves and all that. Well, that's, they call it AI. It's machine learning at this point. That's not AI. It's not thinking for itself. Now, we do have some stuff that's doing that, but in order to get to AI, you kind of got to get through machine learning. And I could go deep into that, but the problem is nobody's going to make that distinction. We might have that discussion on an esoteric level, but for the most part, when we get it into the dental office, it's what's it going to do for me? Okay. And so whether it's machine learning or actual AI or wherever level we are in between, that's not going to be what's going to drive this. What's going to drive it, somebody's not coming going, well, which one is it? It's what does that product do? How is it beneficial to me or my patients? And that's kind of going to be where it's at. And when I do my AI lecture, I have a whole big thing on what that is, but that's well beyond, showing shapes and going, which shape is going to tell it which one looks like a car. because that's basically machine learning. You know, what you do with it afterwards becomes a bigger discussion. And most of what we're seeing right now is machine learning, but there is some a little bit more advanced stuff in some of the products that are out there.
I love that. So you brought up the fact that you obviously, go to trade shows and you're an educator and you have been for a long time in dentistry. We've got Chicago Midwinter coming up. I think you're doing something even more than that there that can be really helpful for this.
Yeah, this is going to be something different. This is about 2 years in the making, but we finally got it off the ground. So it's called the Dental VIP Summit. And what that is going when the VIP store, it stands for Venture, Innovation, and Partnership. All right. And what that really means is we're bringing in a whole bunch of different people who have been very successful entrepreneurs in the dental space. And who's going to be there? Well, we've got existing people who are giving keynotes, such as Christian Coachman. I know Pam's looking forward to that one. And Stephanie Goddard from Glidewell, who's the CEO. Yep. Again, top-notch people who are coming in who want to just talk about how technology has impacted them and what they're doing with it. But also we've got startup companies. We're going to do a little Shark Tank type thing. We're going to do pitches, which aren't Shark Tank. People who are just actually looking for that networking between KOLs. And a KOL doesn't necessarily have to be somebody like the three of us. All right. It could be somebody who's really just interested in these spaces and what's new, who's looking to get networking and access and maybe really wants to become a KOL. But that's the kind of thing it is. So we're going to have, dentists there. We're going to have the people who are in these companies. And we're having investors, people who've been successful in these spaces and exited for millions of dollars and keep doing it over and over again to be successful. So we've got a whole program and a whole agenda that's just going to be driven on innovation and what's new. So everything there's a complete panel just on AI. All right, we're going to have some AI companies who are going to tell you what they do, kind of like that elevator pitch. All right, and then we're going to have a roundtable discussion just on AI. And later on in the day, we're going to have dentists are going to be sitting on a panel, and we're going to talk about how technology is influencing the profession as a whole. And then after that, we've got people, some of the big people in the dental industry who the dentists don't know, but the people in the industry do. And these are big movers and shakers from the Shines and Pattersons and those big companies. And they're going to tell us, what does it look like from the industry perspective? So we're coming at this in a completely different manner than a Shark Tank. Although we have, like I said, we've got a little Shark Tank there where people who might want to invest, but we're coming at it so that every player gets a say and everybody's going to interact. And again, it's a wonderful networking opportunity for dentists, people in the industry, and people who are just thinking maybe it's a dentist who has an idea and doesn't know what to do with it. And this might be an opportunity to get in front of some people, whether you're presenting or just being in the room where you can now talk to people that you would never have had that opportunity to do so. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. So if you go to www.dentalvipsummit, you can get everything is there and you can look at the updated agenda.
Awesome.
It's going to be an action-packed day. I know I changed my flight just so I can meet Christian Coachman. I would change my flight for Christian Coachman. Not everybody, but for him, I will.
Yeah,
And
so I mean, it was funny because when we were talking to some of these people, like, and Christian's strictly coming in for this meeting. He wasn't coming, but he's coming to do this keynote. And when we were on the Zoom with him, I mean, he was very excited about it. Everybody involved is very excited. It's just beyond what I thought it would be. In fact, internally, we've had the discussion going, what do we do next year? How do we get better than what we're doing? It's just kind of taking off on its own, which is really great. And for the individual dentist who just might want to be there, come. It's gonna be, you're coming to Midwinter, then come to this. Pam, you changed your schedule. So did I actually, just to make sure I could get in or I'm coming in a day early. So,
So, well, let's talk about that really quick. So, this is not affiliated with Chicago Midwinter. This is its own thing. So, we were talking earlier today, David and I, when we were offline, talking about dental shows and trade shows, and how it's the landscape of that has changed significantly
yeah.
over the past 5 years. And so, this is people are more attracted to the smaller, more unique, boutique type
Oh, yeah.
show. And that's what this is. So, right, it's got nothing to do with Midwinter. It's just a coincidence that it's right kind of at
Well,
Midwinter adjacent in time, but it's
yes.
its own
It's
thing.
so that's not a coincidence, as you probably well know. The reason for that, and it was really interesting, is so we are not affiliated with the Chicago Midwinter Meeting in any shape or form. So I just want to make sure that's out there. Um, but what we found, so one of the thoughts was, well, everybody was going to be there anyway, so let them just come in early. And we've originally started this as a half a day program, figuring people, at least from the East Coast, could fly in the morning and still make it. But it started to grow. Then it became 3/4 of a day. Now it's a full day because we've got more and more companies, more and more people wanted to participate, and it just kind of grew on its own. And the funny thing was, I'm thinking, oh, this is unique. There's like a whole bunch of other meetings that are also scheduled around this on that day. So, then and I've got people going, well, I can't make it because I'm in this or I'm going to be in that meeting. And then so we've kind of worked some of it so they can go to their meeting in the morning and then be at our meeting in the afternoon. Some people with the ADA, some people with Dental Trade Alliance, they've got all their stuff going on. And then as you get later, there's other things that are going on Friday and Saturday, all because everybody's there. And that's the good thing. That's the thing I love about this meeting because everybody is there. I mean, everybody shows up in Chicago.
I think also we should talk about that. If you are a dentist that historically goes to the midwinter meeting or just sort of, is interested in knowing what's going on, this kind of has a little bit of everything, right? So if you're a younger dentist that's trying to, make a name for yourself in the industry as a key opinion leader and you wanted to meet companies and kind of get in touch with the latest technologies, this is there for you. If you just kind of want to know what's going on in the industry and kind of take a look under the hood of what's going, what happens with, these larger organizations or how a company starts from an idea to landing itself in your practice, you're going to kind of get a vision of what that looks like at this type of conference. So it's going to be very different and very special.
Yes, it's unique. I mean, like I said, there's been other people who've done like Shark Tank things, but nobody's ever really brought all this together in a big public forum. I mean, we've done it in small things, private things where it's, 20 or 30 people and that's completely different. This is for everybody. So like you said, you can peek under the hood, back to our car references, and really see it. And you asked before about how meetings are changing. The big meetings are changing. They're difficult. Attendance is down in most of them. There's issues with vendors and attendance and classes and all the things that we've been seeing over a long period of time. But these little smaller meetings, seem to be taking over in a lot of ways. And I don't want to knock the big meetings because thank God they're there because you can get a lot of things done. But people are more interested in what they're interested in rather than these meetings are what I'll call relics of the only place you could get CE, the only place you could get information was going to these meetings. That's not true anymore. CE's online, information is a click away. You know, other people's opinions where, you used to rely on key opinion leaders and lecturers and all this other stuff. Well, now there's a Facebook group or something that's just, available. You're just there. So you want to put it out there and you'll get, as like they say, with dentists, for treatment plans, if you show 10 dentists a treatment plan, you'll get 11. Well, you're going to get the same thing when you're asking about pieces of equipment or what's good or what's not. but it's easily available where it wasn't in the old days. So that's why the meetings have had to change.
Yeah, and you know what I love it about what you're doing, Marty, is it really is laser focused in one arena. You know, there's a lot there, but there's not all the distractions of the things that maybe I don't really want. So I can come and focus on the technology side. So if I'm coming, because I think this is something that we as dentists maybe don't think about very often, how do I best prepare in advance so I can get the most out of coming, knowing what you're offering?
So if I was coming, just like you're saying, I think the first thing I would do is look at the agenda. And then I would go and actually say, hey, let me Google those people who are speaking. Let me Google, the companies that are presenting, because most even these little companies have a website, and it gives you some background information on what they do. It may be limited because even when we were picking them, it was like, what do they do? There's not a lot out there. There's a couple, it's home, and this is what we do in contact. But it's there and you can see kind of understand what the diversification is in terms of what we're seeing out there and how it's going to play out. And with that, then you might say, hey, that's an area of dentistry that I'm interested in, whether it might be, let's say it's salivary diagnosis. Okay, well, these three companies. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be difficult to get in front of those people, even if you don't know them. Because one of the things I'm going to say we're doing, but I haven't confirmed it. Everybody's on their badge is supposed to have a QR code for their LinkedIn. So you can just scan that right off their badge, but you're going to be able to get to these people. There's not going to be, 5,000 people in this room. The whole idea is there's networking. We've got, a breakfast, a lunch, breaks, and a cocktail hour. So you want to walk up to somebody and say, hey, I'm interested in your product and maybe I could be able to help you. Well, there's the opportunity. You're going to have it. So that one-on-one time will be there, which you probably, we don't always see that. We've all given lectures and there's those three or four people who come up to ask a question at the end. Well, you can ask those questions, but now you can actually dig into these people, get to know them, and then see if that's something you want to maybe get involved with. And that doesn't mean investing money. It means you just might want to be able to help.
I like it.
I think so too. So, all right. So dentalvipsummit.com. Check it out if you'd like to attend. I know I'll be there, so I'd love to see you there. And
All
so,
right.
Marty, I guess we're kind of getting to the top of our time here, but are there any technologies that you're particularly excited about
Mm.
that you think we should be keeping an eye on for our practices?
Um, the thing that I would love to see, but I can't, at this point, I'm looking way into the future and robotics are going to change dentistry. Okay. I'm just going to throw that out there. We're not close yet, but we're getting there. I mean, we have, the Yomi that'll place the implant robot, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of stuff in the works that's going to really change the way we deliver dentistry. AI is going to be part of that. Uh, I'm probably going to be retired before all of that comes into play, but I'll have my little piece of that will be there. And those are the kind of things that are exciting me. Things that change that are disruptive. In fact, we have a whole thing on dental disruptors, okay? Because that's what it takes. Because listen, we're all dentists and we were all trained a certain way. We kind of think the same way in many cases, but it's the disruptors who change it. And that's the me. So, we're seeing that disruption in AI, and you're going to see that grow to the point where we may be able to, as I call it, rework our practices a bit when I go back to when we first started with reminder texts, and that was a big deal. And people were, well, they're going to lose their job because Mary only comes in to do, to call people to remind them. Well, no, we repurposed Mary. And what we're going to see is some of that same thing, especially in the front office, where we may be able to say, well, okay, I got all this these AI products now running, doing insurance verification and follow-ups and all that other stuff and doing it fairly well. Well, that doesn't mean I'm losing my employees. I'm just making them more efficient to do something else that's beneficial to the practice. So I think that's going to be something that you're going to see fairly quickly. The diagnosis and all that other parts of AI will come into play and become very common. All right. 5 years. All right. I mean, think about it. We've already got that. The thing that's changed dentistry the most in my lifetime, not my lifetime, in my actual professional lifetime, when we think about it, is intraoral scanning. We're over 50% of the market in a very short period of time. I mean, digital radiography took decades. This isn't. We're not standing still anymore. We're looking forward, and you gotta, so even the old guys got to take the blinders off, like me. They got to come off because the future is coming, whether you like it or not. And you're going to either participate or you don't. And you don't want to be the guy at the end of that curve. So, those are the kind of things that I'm seeing. And again, we've got a whole bunch of things that are going to change. It's just going to be a matter of where does dentistry fit into it?
I love it. Friends, listen, if you don't know Marty, and I'm not sure how you could not know Marty, you need to know Marty, because let's face it, I love Google. I love ChatGPT is one of my favorite tools out there, talking about like
Yes.
machine learning and AI. But we have amazing people a la Marty in our profession who are doing all the work. So being present at events like this, reaching out, taking CE from Marty, and his team of folks is a huge win. Pam.
Yeah, Marty, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all the things that you're doing. And you educate, you're staying on these things, but then you're also bringing all of this to us conference. So, I mean, this isn't something that just happened and it's like, like we go to these shows and we go to these conferences and it's sort of done for you, right? There's breakfast, there's breaks, there's coffee, there's snacks, there's a cocktail hour. It's all sort of done for us. But the reality is there's people that do that for us. And in this case, this is the guy. Like he's done this for us. This is all planned for us. I know you're part of a crew. I know.
Again, I cannot take credit for all of that. I thank you for all those nice things you said, but I cannot take credit. Darius is my partner in this, and Craig is the meeting guy, and he's handling all of that stuff. And it would never happen without that person. So he's a professional meeting planner, all right? And he's the one who actually started the whole thing. He's been
So
in the medical space, and he came and I wound up meeting him, and we wound up, it took 2 years, but that's it. So no, just like your dental office, it's not the dentist, it's the team, and nobody can do it it's very hard to do it by yourself. All right. So I got to give credit to Darius and to Craig because I couldn't pull this off myself.
no, but it's an idea that's now going to be a tangible thing. And I think that it's inspiring and it's exciting. And I think that, yeah, the thank you should be there. And, obviously we're talking to you today. I don't have Darius and Craig on too, but it's like, it's pretty cool that you're bringing this to us as a community. So you guys join us for the Dental VIP Summit and we can see Marty there. Otherwise, Marty, where can we follow you?
Where can you follow me? I have my blog, dentaltechblogspot.com. You can follow me. Just, get on me on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever. And if you follow me on Instagram, it's mostly concerts that I'm going to and little things like that. So it's not a lot of dental there. But yeah, that's it. Probably LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and you can find me. Google my last name, Jablow, and it'll come up somewhere.
Yes, you're on page one for sure. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you all on Dental Unmasked next week. Until then.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to the show this week. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at Ignite DDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive dental economics. You can choose to receive DE in print or digitally, and you can also get the details of our Principles of Practice Management conference on our website.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email to dentistryunmaskedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.